Welcome to the Catalog. My name's Justin Wood. I'm here with Johann Baldwin from Accenture.
Yes.
Yeah. And today we're going to be talking about the clouds.
Oh, yeah.
Cloud networks. It's cloudy day here today. It feels like the cloud has descended upon us today to talk about cloud networks. So tell me a little bit about what you do at Accenture.
Yeah, I'd love to jump into Accenture, but I'd probably have to start with who I am.
Yeah. Who are you?
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, like I'm a below average guy that just made it in life this far. And I have to say that, the start probably of my life was lots of chaos, but somehow I managed to funnel that into a meaningful life. And so, if I start back at the beginning, like, I don't know about you, but where I grew up in Burnaby, British Columbia, there was constant fights in elementary school. Like I had to be prepared every month in grade 2 and 3 on who I was going to have to fight that week. And so, luckily, like I did have an option to leave one of the elementary schools in grade 4. That was highly encouraged. And, that kind of changed my life because ultimately what I decided was, well, maybe I should just try sports out and see if sports is something that can take my mind off of, constantly having to get into tussles or talk back to teachers. So that's what I did. And so once I got to a place where sports were somewhat organized, I told my parents I wanted to sign up for skiing. And so they put me in ski racing, which was a huge commit. I got to miss lots of schools. So teachers still hated me, but I was actually applying myself. And so throughout high school, I ski raced internationally and competed in Canada, the US, and Europe. And, the highlight of my life was running the Whistler World Cup downhill and getting clocked at 120 kilometers an hour going down Dave Murray downhill. And, I stopped thinking about those guys that I had to beat up in grade 2 or that would beat me up. So that's kind of like where I started and what kind of set me straight. And ultimately, I followed my mom's footsteps. And, she was an entrepreneur and ran the sales and marketing for an advertising agency. And I adored her and loved to see what she did with the company and driving the client relationships and talking to customers. And so I used to go along on sales calls with her when I was young and learned about that part of the business. And that's what I've done. So it's a little tidbit of how I got started.
That's cool. I didn't know you were that competitive on the skiing side of things.
Yeah.
You're ripping down there pretty quick then, eh?
Yeah. I mean, I can, if you want to put it in the show notes, I can send you the photos of me in my spandex suits. I mean,
all right. We would love to see that. 100%. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Which era of like spandex suit is this, by the way? Is this like
so this
early
was
2000s,
90,
maybe?
1990.
Oh, so we're in full spandex mode then.
Yeah. You're in reds, dark purples, some neon.
Yeah. So going into the sales and marketing side, you're working a lot in the technology side right now, doing a lot of this digital transformation stuff. Big buzzword.
Yeah.
So how does that kind of translate into what you're doing day to day now? Seeing where you came up and modeling your mom and her entrepreneurial spirit. How does that translate into big tech and big companies and stuff like that?
Yeah. A lot of what I do is finding the pain. Like a lot of the clients that I talk to don't really know what's getting in their way. And part of my job is to really understand their business and look from the outside in to share perspectives on, what could be plaguing them. And the worst type of situation you can be in my role is to sit down with a CIO and for him to ask me, tell me about what I should do for my cloud strategy.
Mm-hmm.
Because I could take that bait and I could run with it for 30 minutes or bring in a crew and run through 85 slides on what the cloud strategy should be. But it's not really what that CIO needs. That CIO needs to know more about, am I doing the basics right? Do I have my data in the right place? Do I have my teams collaborating and talking to each other on a regular basis? And are they actually even prioritizing things that are going to matter to my business? And so some of those basic conversations are what leads to more meaningful growth for a lot of the clients that I work with. And trust me, like, I've been in this long enough, I've taken the bait, and that usually leads to a path to nowhere. Because everybody wants to get smart on what Accenture's doing in the marketplace, but not everybody's really willing to look at the big problems and the trap value that could be uncovered by looking to solve some of those problems.
Yeah, there's like a term, it's called like solutionizing sometimes. If you start approaching something that way, like, I'm looking for a solution for a problem that doesn't really exist yet, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, sometimes it's like getting to the actual problem first before you start building a solution around it, right?
Yeah.
Okay. The one thing that I keep seeing and researching about is this idea of cloud native, or what's the other term for it? Cloud first.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me a little bit about what that is.
Sure. So what we believe at Accenture and what I've seen is every business is going to be a cloud business. It's going to be integral to their core. And so what we talk about as total enterprise reinvention. So cloud is going to transform the way that any business, any size, operates. And if you don't think about your cloud strategy and the application of that first for your business, then you're not going to have a strong core to build from, meaning that everything, people, your process, the way your organization operates is going to be left behind. So essentially, yes, there is a technology component to becoming cloud native, but the bigger problem that a lot of organizations don't look at is the operations. How does the operating model change now that I am starting to adopt cloud? And what does that mean for teams and how they're collaborating? And ultimately, you look at the workforce in a lot of IT organizations, and they're pretty old.
Mm-hmm.
They're in their 40s, they're in their 50s, and they're used to doing things the way they've been doing them.
Mm-hmm.
So changing that mindset is one of the biggest barriers to actually really fully adopting the cloud.
And obviously, this cloud first idea, who were like the original, the OGs of cloud first, the companies that said, this is the way it should be done? And maybe what are some examples in our day-to-day life that we might take for granted? Whether it's we open up a Netflix app or something like that, which companies are the ones that really ushered this movement forward?
Yeah. Well, I think about just in my role and how I have to interface with technology, even going back 15, 20 years, Salesforce was ultimately, the true adopter of cloud, because they simply said, look, Like you have to have your applications fully connected so that a level of collaboration can occur. My dad used to say, because my dad was part of my mom's business and ran the operations, but he used to say, nothing in business happens without a sale.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing occurs. There's no sale. Why would you need operations? Why would you need accounting? And what Salesforce did is they created this platform that ensures that everybody is getting smarter about what is happening with the sale. Where are we in the cycle? Is this just, one customer that, we've never done business with before, or do we have a history with this client? And so, making that information available to everybody in the organization is vital. It's how the lifeblood of the organization should operate. So I truly believe in SaaS and what Salesforce did as, being one of those OGs.
Mm-hmm. And it's an operational thing, right? So you can't just say, okay, I'm going to throw this piece of software, and if nobody uses it, then it doesn't really get its benefits, right? Mm-hmm. So it's also, creating a culture of using it, of having things all showing the lifetime value of a customer, all that stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
we're not allowed to eat this pastry,
no,
right?
You're not. I mean, it's forbidden. It's the forbidden
Is it
pastry.
apple?
Who knows? There's only one way to find out, but yeah. So we have Salesforce doing all this good stuff, but then you have lots of companies that are, taking forever to adopt new processes, right?
Mm-hmm.
What's a good example of like a when the pain is there and it's time to invest into something like that? Say, okay, we're going to rip out all these old systems. Everything's going to be in the cloud. We're going to tell Joanne in accounting that throwing her paper receipts in the cupboard aren't going to work anymore. Like, mm-hmm. When do you usually hear people say, okay, enough is enough, it's time to invest in this?
I'll have to say is that businesses usually find out when it's too late. And so that's why the customer's not going to tell you, hey, I'm bailing because your experience sucks with your product, and you should actually go start developing microservices and move things to Kubernetes. That never happens. What happens is customers leave. Companies in accounting teams start to figure out, hey, what's going on here? Lifetime value of these customers is shrinking. Our churn rate is going through the roof. What is it? Do we smell? Did we do something wrong in the industry? Did we kick a cat? And I like to kind of simplify the big problem right now. And if I take a telecom example, how many times have you been on a phone call with somebody and the call drops? And then you call the person back and they say, oh, I don't know what happened there. Sorry about that.
Mm-hmm.
Why would you ever know what happened there? That's not your responsibility. So I always kind of chuckle because if you called any telco today and told them about your experience, guess what? They wouldn't know what happened either.
Mm-hmm.
Because their systems were designed for when they were, made. And we're still using technology today in telco that was designed for texts and, the odd voice call.
Yeah. Yeah. And it doesn't seem to be talking about the cloud in 2024 doesn't seem like a revolutionary thing.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't see day-to-day the benefit. It's not rolled out, right? It's not like everything that we're doing right now is
a journey
is connected in that way. And it's So, when is that utopia that we've been promised gonna happen, right? Like what are the key industries that need to go through this in order for me to really have all these benefits that it's been promising for years, right?
Yeah. I'll bring it back to a telecom example too. And it's happening now. And the reason it's happening is because, well, let's face it, you can't charge anymore for your cell phone plan. And the amount of operations that it takes to keep your network alive requires lots of humans. Humans are expensive. And so the need to drive more automation within the network has never been stronger. And typically the telecom systems are so complex that you have specialists across various different silos, if you will, of the operations. And so now there's a huge push to drive convergence across different levels of the operations. And you would do this because, going back to that dropped call example, wouldn't it be nice to know if your customer is going to have a poor experience before they end up calling you and saying, can you cancel my service? And so a modern telecom network would have the ability to proactively understand the real-time experience of a customer and potentially move to elastic compute. So which is be something that would just like allow more traffic, more bandwidth available. And the more important thing is that you don't necessarily need humans to be in the middle. You could do closed loop automation by having really good data in the right places. And the bigger opportunity is in what we call Open RAN. And Open RAN is a whole new paradigm for telcos because you see all those cell phone towers around Oakville. They're running proprietary technology that really doesn't have any software engineers driving the performance of it. It's usually, done by the vendors in a closed box environment, and that has to be stitched together with a whole bunch of other things that make the network work. Well, Open RAN now basically says that my network is like a laptop. So when I go to shut down at night and it's got 15 updates to do, I just let it run its updates so that you're releasing to the network multiple times a day versus once a year with multiple patches. So improving that and constantly improving and using the ability of what, DevOps and CI and CD were designed for. Telecommunications
is a great example, right? Of they've had to innovate. They've had to create a lot of new digital products over the past, 5-10 years. You saw a big app boom in that segment, right? You had, and it's interesting because you try to buy like a phone package now or a cable package. It's a mix of like 50 different apps. So if you want to watch your sports, you have this one. If you want, you need Disney Plus, you need Hulu, you need all this. So they've kind of done this. They've had their kind of app boom, right? But they have to have the infrastructure in place in order to have these things talk to each other, right? You still have over-the-top boxes and all these things. So how important is it to be, cloud first or cloud native in delivering that kind of experience, like multiple apps, different pieces of hardware? How does that tie it all in together?
Yeah, I think what's important, maybe moving to an adjacent industry around cloud native, is think about mining. So this is like dangerous work. Oil and gas, you're going into, situations where people are working alone and have zero connectivity to the outside world.
Mm-hmm.
So, the bigger challenge is that, okay, it's really expensive to go try and deploy Wi-Fi everywhere in some of these places. And half the time it doesn't even work because you're going through concrete bunkers. And so, the answer for some of those industries is, well, how can I prevent my employees from dying on the job? And what can I do to empower them and improve their experience of work? So I have a client example, and the teams go to the printer and print out their work orders and go into these dangerous areas with their printed out information on what they have to do. But none of that is in real time, as you can imagine. So what a cloud native network could do, potentially with what we call private 5G, which is essentially a private network specifically designed to cover an area that does not have spectrum, is at a fraction of the cost of what it would take to build a whole new cell site. You can now provide the basics, push to talk, lone worker support where employee needs support, to all the way to advanced video types of applications where we had one case where we have a Boston Dynamics dog running around with a hyperspectral sensor on it, determining whether or not there's a gas leak in some of these places. Might as well let the dog figure that out.
That's not like a real dog. That's that mechanical dog that everybody takes pictures of at trade shows.
Yeah.
So it's actually, it doesn't just hang out at trade shows and take pictures with trade show people.
I think one of them does a backflip too, right? I think.
Yeah. So that's down in mines and stuff like that, just looking for gas leaks.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
So not a lot of companies are looking at that to say, hey, I'm going to get so much benefit by putting in a Boston Dynamics dog. Mm-hmm. But the potential is there once you establish the level basic use cases that are required. Mm-hmm. So I think it's coming. I think we're starting to see the business cases getting stronger and stronger around how to go deploy this. And ultimately, it's allowing a little bit of separation between the amount of expenses that are required that continually go out to try to keep your staff working optimally.
Mm-hmm. How is satellite internet? Because obviously there's a huge push towards that. Lots of people are saying that that's like the next generation of industrial revolution is satellite connectivity. And so do companies that want to be going out into those remote areas, do they need to be set up with this way of development in order to enable that kind of work? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, low Earth orbit can be an option for some organizations. The problem is it always comes back to the use case and how are you going to consume the bandwidth? So, low Earth orbit has increased latency. So you can still do great things. So you can queue up a Netflix show on your 50-foot yacht. Mm-hmm. But the real types of real-time use cases, if you will, you have to be sub 5 milliseconds to do that. And low Earth orbit still isn't there.
And so what are some other good examples of how, a cloud native company can do stuff that other companies can't?
Yeah, good question. I think the big thing that cloud native companies can do, and granted, this is a journey, is that they can test, deploy, and understand what happens to changes, new products, new offers faster than anyone else. Meaning that gives them a leg up on experimenting. And ultimately, like that's how businesses should be operating. If you want to be an innovative business, you're going to have to test, learn, and fail every single day. And so that's the power of the cloud, is it allows you to go out and even try out new business models and do that at a faster clip, because your teams are operating more efficiently, and it gives you kind of those guardrails of, hey, I don't need to put a whole bunch of investment to go out and bring a new product to market or go try out a new offering. So that's probably like the biggest value that we would see.
Yeah. So, what would be a good example of that? And for example, if a telco company, which ones have succeeded in that whole test, iterate, build a new business case? What would you say is like?
I would bring it back to even just how I got here, Uber.
Yeah.
Right. Look how many businesses Uber has now integrated into this one app. Like, to get here today, I had, almost 8 different options. One was to take the train. You go to Manhattan, you want to get to your cottage house in the Hamptons, there's a helicopter option. So
yeah.
I know you've taken that a few times.
The
right?
Uber helicopter
Uber
option?
heli, yeah.
No, I haven't tried that.
So think about where that goes, right? And then now it's as simple as, do you need a ride home after the location I'm taking you to? Pre-booking that, pre-scheduling, into the Uber Eats, right? And I just drove past an Uber Freight. Yeah. So think about the options of business models once you now have the customer experience dialed. Mm-hmm. Look, it probably wasn't the cheapest way to travel today, but it was convenient for me. And so, that's an example of a cloud organization really, adopting new strategies. Tinder's another one, right? I mean, thank God I'm not Tindering in Colombia right now. I mean, have you heard what's going on down there?
No, what's going on with I know I have lots of friends down there in Colombia doing things. I don't know what they're doing.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, hopefully they're not doing scopolamine.
What's this?
So, just a word of caution to anybody Tindering in Colombia these days. So scopolamine is, I went down a bit of a rat hole on this, because scopolamine is this odorless substance that's used in post-op to prevent nausea.
Okay.
But the problem is, if it's odorless and you double down, you pass out.
Oh, okay.
So a lot of guys are going down to Colombia thinking that they're going to, get lucky. And their vodka sodas are getting spiked with this, what's called the devil's breath.
Okay.
The problem is that they're getting robbed, mm-hmm. and then some of them aren't even waking up after.
Oh my God.
So, word of caution, try to avoid the devil's breath if you're Tindering in Colombia.
So they're using Tinder as kind of a tool to attract people, say, hey, what's up? Let's meet up. Let's grab a drink. Boom. You get robbed. You wake up. That's that.
Yeah. You kind of,
That's a really,
I guess it would probably be attract them, you drug them, you rob them, you dump them.
Yeah. Okay.
Some form of that. The problem is, like, that's actually because any synthetic drug is derived from something natural. But a deeper little, like, kind of rat hole you could go down is this deadly nightshade is just like a leaf that grows in North America. Mm-hmm. And so actually in the 1600s, the British military was making a salad, just trying to live their life. Mm-hmm. And if you induce this devil's breath, by just eating the plant substance, you go completely delirious. So you go into this like psychosis that you could still function,
Okay.
but you might be eating bark. And these guys, apparently they had a salad and that lasted 11 days of delirium.
And that's what the other chemical is derived from?
Yeah.
Just like a plant? Interesting.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm going to give you a couple examples of things, and I want you to tell me if it's cloud native or not cloud native. So like, do you think these would be cloud native or not, or they're not on that native?
On the spectrum, where are they?
Yeah.
Sure.
Oh, so it's more of a spectrum. It's like you're either cloud native or you're on the journey, maybe. There might be guys on the journey. Okay. All right. My bank, cloud native, not cloud native.
Well, let's see. You think a lot of it's cloud native because you got a cool app and you can take photos and deposit checks. The problem is that just ends up going to a back office and somebody's got to take a look at that photo and then verify it and then do their hold. So not yet there. They're still on mainframe. There's technologies that are probably 50 years old in many banks. So yeah, I'd probably give them a medium rating.
Medium rating,
Yeah.
cloud native. Okay. My daughter's school board.
Schools.
School.
Yeah. So I don't know about you, but I have like 6 different ways that my school communicates my children's activities with me. So I get emails from the teacher. Okay, you could call that sort of cloud native. That's SaaS. I have an app. I have
You have an app for your kids?
Newsletters that come home.
That's advanced. Must be
Let's just say they're trying. Their bigger problem is identity, because I don't think I've logged into my children's report card in the last 3 years because I can't figure out how to get into their system. So yeah, they're pretty low.
Yeah. Okay. Netflix.
Definitely cloud native, born in the cloud, and will remain pioneering in the cloud.
Okay. And what are some examples of maybe things in that you might take for granted?
Recommendations. So it was probably really crappy to begin with, but it just continues to get better. So that's one of those examples of testing and iterating to make sure that they get it right. And so anything like personalized, predictive, hey, you might like this, they're starting to get pretty good.
Yeah. My cell phone company's TV app.
Cell phone company's TV app. Well, I would have to say if you're watching a lot of live TV on your phone, you need some friends. And the sports is going to be completely cloud native. Any live sports, because you're already starting to see it now. The deals that Amazon is striking with the NFL to broadcast Thursday night games. Apple TV's got MLS on lock. So I would say that entertainment is moving towards cloud native. Telcos are just a channel for that. So I think that they still have a long way to go because I don't have many apps that just instantly show me all of the live sports that you might be able to consume.
They're kind of following suit on the entertainment companies and the Netflixes and Apples.
Yeah.
Okay, and then finally, my team's project management tool.
Oh, yeah, that sounds like a SaaS application that could be highly collaborative. So yeah, I would say that's high up there in terms of cloud native and the capabilities of it and what you could extract from it and data you could put in and potentially plugins from other types of applications, development tools.
What do you wish in your life had the automation of a Netflix or of an Uber or something like that?
What do I wish had the automation in my life? The ability to tell me where to go on the ski hill where there's no lines. I want some heads-up display that pushes into my goggles that says, ooh, you need to be at seventh heaven right now. There's nobody there.
So some kind of like real-time wearable? Would that be like an Apple Pro Vision that's like...
Yeah.
Okay.
Or maybe just like multiple sensors all over my body, and I could just sense where the chairlift on the mountain is.
It just vibrates in the location that you need to go. Steer left, steer right.
Oh, they have this. They have this footbed you can put in your ski boots. It's called Carve.
Okay.
And it tells you whether or not you're putting enough pressure on your ski boot. Haven't tried it, but they're trying to sell it through multiple channels.
Okay.
Because the trick to skiing is that you have to have consistent pressure from the lower half of your body, and Carve apparently will tell you whether or not you're doing that.
Okay, so it's basically saying, this is the ideal way that your body should be moving, and it's giving you like through a piece of hardware visual or like rumbles or vibrations going.
Yeah, I think there might even be like a headset plug-in too.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Isn't there stuff like that for golf swings as well? I think that I might have seen something like that for golf swings. Okay, so yeah, all these things that we were promised wearables that were going to change our lives. But yeah, if we don't have that fundamental way of delivering it out, through a network or something like that, then we're never going to live in that utopia, right?
Yeah. Well, some people prefer like free and natural too. It's just because in your mind you could just say, "Oh, that was a great run. I looked awesome doing that." Meanwhile, you could have been hacking it down the whole hill. So if you're thinking for something this weekend, maybe try out a set of Carves. I know you're going skiing, right?
Are they called Carves?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So we talked cloud native, and I learned a lot about the future, about where the future is going, where it is slowly. I feel like it's going slower than I think. We're promised this future every year, and but that slow progress comes from people iterating and trying these new things out every year, right?
Yeah.
They might seem silly, they might seem like a gimmick, but it's that kind of innovation that's driving us forward, right?
I think that's right. The key to innovation is being not afraid to fail.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, a lot of business leaders are led by sticks and not carrots.
Yeah.
And ultimately, like, that's where I want to be. I want to be spending my time and giving my full presence to business leaders that are willing to grow, willing to try something different, willing to change.
Yeah. And you look at all those companies that are those cloud native first companies like Google, the Netflixes, these guys, they're always trying new things. They're putting out stuff that is going to raise an eyebrow too, that is going to kind of suck. And lots of them are going to fail along the way. Right. But they can do that because it doesn't take them, 10 years to get it to market. It takes them, a couple months to get something into the hands of people. And that's the investment that you do into all those systems and that culture of what you're building there. That's what enables you to do that. Right. Yeah. So, yeah. So yeah, I think that's a good learning. We'll leave it at that, and we'll catch you on the next one. So thanks a lot.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.